Hey there, ladies. So I just wanted to share a few of my images and talk about creating depth in the story that you're hoping to convey. And in the previous presentation that I had, where I mentioned the various elements that are super important in showcasing, in helping you create depth in your images, and why it is important, right? So, so I wanted to share a few images here. So let me see which one I wanted to pick from here. Let's go with this one. So, firstly, we talked a little bit about, or I talked rather a little bit about light. Um, Working with light, whether you're indoors or whether you're outdoors, and using light and shadows combination, because shadows always help you um, make the image. So shadows are really that perspective, give that perspective, plus help you to add that that dimension, that extra dimension in the image, which may be lacking if everything in the image is completely evenly lit, right? So when you have a scene or a story and you have shadows in the image, it really helps you to create depth as well as just give it a dimension. And why? So, right. So, I give this assignment saying, okay, let's create images where we are able to showcase depth, but why is depth so important, right? So depth is super important in your work, especially because it really helps you make the image feel more lifelike. It makes the image, it makes the viewer connect with the image more because it appears more lifelike. So if it is very two-dimensional and very flat, it may not resonate with the viewer, whoever your viewer is, as much because it just lacks dimension, right? So if you have an image with a certain depth to it, you are connected with it a little bit more because it appears more lifelike. Um, so in this image here, I used a combination of light and shadows. So basically, my daughter was just sitting in this pocket of light. And this is to the back is the closet where I turned off the lights. I turned off the lights everywhere in the bathroom. So this is our bathroom. I turned off the lights everywhere, and this is in the morning. So in the morning, and going in, which is not shown in the right side of the frame over here, there is a door, and in that's the actual toilet, and there is a window that's high up, and this light that you see on the floor, that light is from that particular window. So this is the pocket of light coming in from that window. And if my daughter ever just wants to put nail polish or whatever, I just go to this space just because it's tile and it's a little bit easier to clean up. And she was wearing one of my t-shirts, and she was just sitting wherever she wants, but I just asked her to move to that pocket of light, and she didn't care because she wanted to just continue what she was doing. And having her in that pocket of light and also putting a mirror in there because she can then see herself, and adding this prop to the image really enhances the story because it just showcases childhood where she's putting nail polish but also looking at the mirror. So it just really enhances the story. So think about the various elements that you want to use in the image, and light and shadow combination really plays a huge factor in helping you enhance depth in the image. Okay, so scale, and I did mention this in those slides that I mentioned previously, that scale is also super important. This image was taken with my 12 to 24 Sigma wide angle lens, and basically it's just a normal space in my house. And that space, I just move my yellow couch wherever I want to and just move it around the space. And I moved this closer to the window, and I basically just climbed on the tallest stool that I could find, and I used my wide angle lens and shot this, I think at 14 focal length or something like that, to focus on them looking down to create that depth and give that sense of scale of looking down. And here my story was that my kids are um, spending time together, but they're really bored out of their minds. And they're in the space. And this was just taken when we really, in the beginning, had gone into lockdown, where we were all like, okay, what do we do with ourselves? And I wanted to show the story of them just being together, but also being isolated from everything else. So I used scale over here to create that sense of depth by just simply changing my lens and bringing a different perspective. So when it comes to depth, think of how your lenses that you use can also play a factor in what you are, what's the story that you're hoping to convey. Okay, so this image here, I had there was really no fog in here, although it looks like it was a little foggy. So this is a double exposure image. And I also layered, basically, I think if I remember correctly, the fog that you see in the background was basically with my prism. So I just played around with the prism to a point where you could just see haze. And it was just light that was just, causing the haze. And so it's not real fog, but it's just haze because of my prism that I used. And then I just did a double exposure. And because I used fog, and fog will tend to give this depth in the frame, right? Because it has a lighter part to it. So if your subjects are wearing something dark, automatically they're going to pop out, and it just creates depth. So we're going to talk about color in a little bit too, but color is also another way, another element as to how you can use it to create depth in the image as well. Light again. So I talked about light a little bit previously, where you can use the combination of light and shadows to create depth. And I also used scale over here. And here I just had, some light coming in. My kids were just running around playing. The house was a mess. I had my fog machine turned on. So then the light was, so you do see a little bit of the hazy light. And then they were just playing around, and my son was just walking. So I used, a little bit of layering in here, but this was something which the scene was set by me asking my kids to play in that atmosphere and just do whatever they want. But with my son walking down, kind of just really enhances the frame, where I used layering in here, and that creates that extra dimension and adds a new perspective, right, when looking at the image. And same in here, this was a shot indoors with using a fog machine, where I had light coming in. The light rays were just coming in. And I saw that through the mirror. I can never say mirror properly, so excuse me for that. I don't know why. But you see, this image was a reflection of my daughter. And the light was just streaming on her and was just so beautiful. And just, it just creates that, it just adds that extra depth because of that streaming ray of light that I noticed in that reflection. And here again, so this was a double exposure image. Also here I use layering as well as light. to create depth in the image here as well. And here I just basically photographed her first, and then I had this bokeh that, you have, if you have different baby lenses, it's just super easy just to use, your Sol 45, H35, or even say free lens or whatever you can, or even just set your traditional lens, whatever you use, to a manual focus and make it completely out of focus and capture any bokeh that you can find through light, even if it's outdoors, even if it's indoors, Christmas lights, any of that you're able to photograph, you can always use that as overlay. So this is something that I always say in my classes and anyone that I talk to, that anything that you see in terms of textures or light, haze, or just anything like that, that you feel that you may want to use it sometime later, photograph that separately without your subject, and then just create an ongoing folder where you call it like overlays or templates or whatever, and you could come back to that and then just use those overlays in your images. It could be light. So sometimes, I know, Sarah, this is for you. I know that you you photograph outdoor, your son outdoors, just being himself outdoors so beautifully. Something that may help you is, if you photograph, and I think you do use a longer focal length. So if you're out and about and you have, say, your 135, 105, 85, any of those longer focal lengths, just shoot completely wide open, like a backlit image, and without having to, without having, or kind of like stepping back a little bit so that you don't have, your highlights are not completely blown out, but it's sort of, let me just show you what I mean as well while I'm talking about that. Hang on a second. Yes, so it is this one here. This was an overlay that I just made. I'll put it up in the Dropbox for you guys as well if you wanted to use this anytime. But this was, for example, just a really nice overlay that I just sometimes just use in my outdoor images if I want a little bit of extra light in the image. And I just took this with my 135 when I shot wide open outdoors under backlighting conditions. So, so use whatever you can as textures and overlays and templates like that, to save and use it for the future. Let me just go back to where I was. Give me 1 second. Okay, so also we talked a little bit about light in terms of creating depth. We talked about layers. So this image just happened when I observed that my daughter was just looking outside. This beautiful last light was just hitting her. And then I just saw this pattern of our lace curtain on the wall. And then light, it just does this beautiful dance, right? Where you have this, this orangish last light, which is so strong and bold. And then here, the light's just almost lost its strength, and it's just really cool. So just play with color, sometimes even like the playing with the cool and the warm tones as well can just create depth. So think about how you can have these various tones of warmth and coolness in the image as well that can just help you enhance depth in the frame as well. Here I just used a composition, just basically, just center composition, scale, and just playing with nature and, just helping lines and shapes to help define my subject as well as the story in the image to help create depth.